We'll move to Budget and Financial Management. Commissioner Rob Williamson.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Item number 1, recommend Budget Amendment 2015-161 in the amount of $7,659, carrying forward remaining TDC allocation to the Navarre Beach Sea Turtle Conservation Center in the Tourist Development Fund. We talked about this item on Monday. This closes out, there was 3 different funding sources. One of them was the $60,000 allocation that was restricted to specific uses, and this will close out that $60,000 grant, leaving 2 other ones. I would ask that this be approved without objection.
Hearing none, that is approved.
And now I would like to talk briefly about, this is linked to this. I originally made a request back in, December, shortly after taking office. I had inherited 3 projects. One of them was the restroom project there in Navarre Park. The other one was the Marine Science Station allocation, and the other one was the Turtle Center allocation. And just wanted to get a clear accounting of where we are on those projects. You know, what was allocated, what specifically was it supposed to be used for, the money, and how much had been spent, and what do we have left as a timeline and cost to get the projects completed. And as it relates to the Marine Science Station, received a detailed accounting of every expense that had gone through and a reason why some of the funds had not been allocated, because there's an ongoing study and they didn't want to allocate or purchase these cameras for this one part of the project. So got the questions answered. As far as the restroom project goes, Mr. Gomillion, within 72 hours, I think it was, definitely less than a week, provided me a file folder with a clear accounting of everything that had been spent and what was remaining on the projects and the costs. I had a meeting with the folks with the Turtle Center and had asked those same questions. And to this point, I have yet to receive a clear accounting on where we are on that project. And so because of that, I would like to ask that we suspend any further, approving any further payments for the $165,000 District 4 Rec Fund previously approved monies, as well as this $43,915 of bed tax dollars. Give us a couple of weeks, or give us until the next county commission meeting for them to answer those questions. And just because you may not have a total background on this, I don't want you to think that I'm in any way singling them out. As I said, I asked the same questions of all these groups, and this did not just start recently. This is an email from December 24th that went out to the director of the Turtle Center as I was, continuing to wait for these very straightforward questions. I've yet to receive an accurate answer on how much was approved, how much has been spent, and how much remains to be spent for this project. Can someone get me these answers before 2015? Let's go. And it says that I have yet to receive these requested financial information and construction timeline. Perhaps it would be helpful for me to clarify my request. So just in case the meeting we had wasn't clear, I went through and was specific in what I was looking for. Provide me with a detailed breakdown per approved funding source for all expenses to date. Provide me with a breakdown of remaining expenses associated with this project. Provide me with a timeline taking us up to completion of the project. And that's all I was looking for. I felt like these are pretty reasonable requests. And as I said, we're now 7 months removed and we still don't have a clear accounting. So that's the request that I'd like to make today. And the one timeline that I did receive, it says that the project was going to be done by February 21st. And it still didn't include the costs that were requested. So I'm not sure we know how much we have left and how much we have to spend. And I think it's important for this board to get a clear understanding of that before we allocate any more tax dollars. So I don't know that that requires a motion, but just want to make that request that we don't allocate any more funds until we have a detailed accounting of what has been spent to date, what is remaining to get this project completed, and that timeline of this is what's left and the costs associated with it. So we know, I've heard that they're going to come in under budget. If they know they're going to come in under budget, they should be able to easily answer these questions. To me, it's pretty straightforward, and I've tried to do this kind of as patiently as I can, but at this point, I'm starting to question why it's taking so long to get these answers.
Sure, I understand.
And I know you've been asking the same questions as well, Jane. So
Well, I have, in fact, I worked probably 8 hours yesterday on that very spreadsheet. So I have answers for you. So I put it all together, and I have supporting documents for every expenditure, and I can tell you exactly where we are with the $165,000. I think you have $8,870 that's left in that pot of money.
So it would seem that by the time we get to the next county commission meeting, we could have these answers, and I would be able to provide those to the general public, and we would have that clear accounting. But
I have the spreadsheets, and I can put them in the back in your packet to see where
fine.
we
the
stand.
recommendation would still stand. I don't feel we should allocate any further funding toward this project until we have an opportunity to get that clear accounting. And that would help us. The other one is, it's also linked to this, is the 43,915. I talked to the county attorney about a couple of items on that grant. One was for a veterinarian technician, and the other one was for a volunteer coordinator. And we have some questions of whether or not that would be an allowable use of TDC funds. And I didn't know if the county attorney could speak to that. I think it'd be difficult for us to do a findings of fact for that one in my mind.
Well, again, it would, in order to be, for TDC funds to be expended appropriately, they have to be for the primary purpose of promoting tourism in Santa Rosa County, and that's a pretty good stretch on hiring a veterinarian assistant.
Good. Thank you. So that gives me until the next meeting. Thank you. That gives me until the next meeting to come back to the board with a clear accounting on where we are on that project and what it's going to take to get it done and what we have left in the bank. And then on the other one, to also take a look at, can we make the case that this is an acceptable use of TDC funds? And so we don't have the opportunity to talk, and this has kind of been going on for a little bit, so I figured it was time that I kind of brought y'all into the fold on this.
Thank you, Commissioner Williamson. We appreciate your diligence in looking after that and analyzing those expenditures. If there can be no allocations without action on this board, so I don't know that any motion is required today. Mr. Walker, did you want to say anything? Did you have anything?
All I was going to say is, obviously, you can't allocate, you won't allocate any more than your back, but I think you mean to suspend any kind of cutting a check is what you're talking about, is spending any funds. You're not talking about allocation, because the board would allocate.
Right, and then maybe we do need a formal motion that we would suspend any additional
Payments. When you say payments.
related to the $165,000 funding and the 43,915 funding, and until the next commission meeting, which I believe is the 22nd. That's Monday, the 22nd. And since you have the information, that should provide us enough time. So I make a motion that we suspend any further payments to the Turtle Center until the June 22nd County Commission meeting. I would make that motion without objection.
Okay. Any discussion, comment?
Mr. Chairman, I have no objection to that motion, but I would like to say, would staff or Commissioner Williamson, would you invite the Turtle people to come at the next meeting where they can, tell us kind of that 30,000 foot view like I spoke about on Monday, to see what's happening out there, what is there an end in sight, and that helps us, me better, because I don't know what's going on out there. With the information that Ms. Bell will give us, I think that's great, and the financial piece is something we need, but I would also like to hear from them and to be able to ask them questions as well, to give them the right to say what, their side of the story. But I don't, I have no objection to that motion. until the 22nd, but can we try to get them out here to answer questions, please?
Absolutely, and we have a meeting scheduled with the folks out there at Navarre Marine Park, and that's going to take place that same week, that same commission week. And I reached out to Ms. Holmes, goodness, I think it was probably a couple of weeks ago, and you know, hey, I haven't seen the activity, you know, what's going on? Saw that you were looking for volunteers on Facebook for some projects. You know, where are we? And progress is being made. I don't want to make it sound like it's not. And the project is moving forward. And that's really all I'm looking for. Let's get to this thing open and ready to go, because we're $250,000 worth of bed tax and rec fund dollars combined. We're now 2 tourism seasons are almost behind us. And these funds that have been allocated, we're not realizing the benefit from it yet. And I just want to make sure that we have all our ducks in a row so we can get that moving. So yeah, I'll definitely, we'll see if Ms. Holmes or another representative can come here, and I think that we'll be in good shape hopefully by the next set of meetings.
Okay. And that motion was made without objection. Hearing no objection, that is
Chairman, if I
approved.
could just make one comment on that, is and Commissioner Williamson outlined it well, is that the difficulty in this is we had separate funding sources, we had a volunteer effort. They were creating the organization as they went. So again, we've done a good job in tracking back through the budget, through finance, and in the funds. I think some of the problem has just been they've just not had project management, some kind of focused moving forward on how that worked. So that was, we had learned that primarily through when we did the Navarre restroom project. We knew that somehow when volunteers are involved with it, we have to take the leadership. We actually project managed it. We put the project together. We approved every invoice. Of course, we approved the invoices here, but from a project management perspective. So it becomes a county project because that means somebody's got to look after it and do it properly. And with the Turtle Center, we did not do that. We had made sure that she got an architect and that they were moving through the process with that. But it's very difficult when you got volunteers. They're well-intended and want to do good, but it's difficult to, especially when our convolution between the separate funding sources and then the working through the budget and then the payment through the finance office. So there was a lot of confusion on where at least administratively or from the clerk's office on how to code and which came from what, and there wasn't the clarity going into it that we should have insisted on.
Well, we'll get there. We'll get there. I do want to say before we move on that, you know, the passion that Ms. Holmes brings to this project. I mean, she's been doing the Turtle Beach Patrol forever, and you know, it's definitely something that the community supports. It's definitely something that is aligned with the values of the community. It's the type of projects that we're encouraging, and I know that the passion is there, and that we'll just make sure that we have the accounting to where that passion can be put to good use. Thank you for the consideration. Moving on.